Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. On the phones with us right now to give us an update on not only the economy, but also how the PPP loan program has gone. Good friend of the show, one of our great sponsors, American Bank of Commerce, the president and CEO of ABC Bank, James Arnold, joining us this morning. And you can even read some of James's words in the Wall Street Journal this morning. Mr. Arnold, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Chad. How are you doing?
Doing great. Appreciate you joining us today. And I guess let's start off before we get into the economic stuff. ABC Bank has done a fantastic job at helping out a lot of small businesses in this area. Talk a little bit about that and what y'all have been able to do.
Well, Chad, it was a sprint to the finish. We funded $101 million worth of loans in less than 2 weeks. About 636 loans. Average size was about $150,000. So we didn't fund any Shake Shacks or any Ruth's Chris, that's for sure. We really targeted our existing customers initially just because we didn't have the manpower to process anything else. We were so overwhelmed with calls. And then as the week progressed, in the second week, we were able to bring in some non-customers and make customers out of them. They were the ones that were kind of cut out by the big banks. And they saw the clock ticking, and they kept hearing reports that the fund was about to run out. So we got 25 to 50, I can't remember the number, of new customers in the door at the last minute.
That's great. And I mean, it's what are some of the stories, or just because I'm sure you heard from a lot of small business owners that I mean they're probably they're probably still heavily worried about what's going to be going on, but this brought a little bit of comfort maybe for some businesses. Yeah,
it bought them time, Chad. It bought them 8 weeks. A lot can change, as we know, in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And so it bought them time, and we were helping, real estate agents, physicians, audiologists, people in construction. I mean, a lot of restaurant loans with this PPP that we helped out. So it really ran the gamut of who it affects all of us. And so anybody that was eligible, we helped them.
We know that the president's going to sign today, I guess you call it phase 3.5, basically putting more money into the PPP program. Is that something that ABC Bank is going to be able to tap into if businesses need it?
Absolutely. We've already got 200 applications already ready to go, been processed, and we are, as soon as they turn that SBA portal back on, we're going to be entering those as fast as we can. I think this money, Chad, will run out sooner than the first round will, because there are more SBA approved lenders in the pipeline right now than there were in the first round of the PPP. And secondly, the big banks have a lot of egg on their face from what they did the first round, so they're going to be determined to look like the good guys and help as many small businesses as they can, and they'll be inputting probably a lot more approved SBA PPP requests than they did the first time.
Yeah, wow. It's just it's sad. It's sad that we're at this at this point. You got to feel bad for the small owners, small business owners out there, and we appreciate. And I know they appreciate all you guys are doing over at ABC Bank. And like you said, y'all were sprinting. I know a few small business owners who were like, yeah, they're calling us and saying the SBA is changing some rules the day before. I mean, it was, and when we had you on that morning, there were still so many unknowns going into this. And I think now, at least on your side, y'all are ready. Y'all are ready for round two now.
Well, we are if they don't change anything, right? I mean,
right.
We're all assuming that it's going to kind of be the same setup as it was the first time, but leave it to the SBA and the government to come in and add a bunch of other documents or whatever that we might have to do to process these things. So, yes, we're ready, unless things change. And you and I both know a lot changed that first week they rolled that thing out.
Yeah, absolutely. James, let's talk about the economy overall. I don't know if you have in any kind of numbers on Lubbock, but I know you sent some information earlier this week and got information just about the state of the economy overall in the United States. And there's a lot of sad news in there as far as the economy goes.
Yeah, there is. Unprecedented, right? Since the last recession that we had, the quote Great Recession in 2008-09, the U.S. economy generated 24 million new jobs over the last 20 years or whatever that was. Well, since then, we've already had 25 million people apply for unemployment. So we've given back every job we created since 2008, essentially. So that was striking to me. Yesterday, I think the TSA screened about 75,000 people all across the country. Nationwide, 75,000 people were screened in TSA, and that includes crew and staff and flyers. A year ago, they screened 2.7 million people, same day last year. So that's a 95% reduction in air traffic. That's a huge indicator as to what's not going on in this economy right now. We all drive around and see all the restaurants that are closed, trying to stay alive, doing takeout. They just now lifted their elective surgery restrictions, so that's kind of coming back on. People can have those surgeries that they really needed, but were considered, elective. So I think you're starting to see people get impatient. We saw the protests last weekend, but across the board, whether it's airlines, the price of oil, the stock market, everywhere you look, it's just kind of got bad news.
Yeah. What is that? What is that doing for interest rates and other issues like that?
Well, rates are low. Prime rate's still at 3.25%. So we're seeing low interest rates across the board. Mortgage rates are low; they're at all-time lows. However, mortgage lenders are tightening up the restrictions and the qualifications to get a loan.
Right.
So, J.P. Morgan Chase, the big bank, they're not doing any home equity loans anymore right now. They put a lid on that, and their minimum credit score to get a mortgage from J.P. Morgan Chase is 700. Ours at Infinity Mortgage, part of ABC Bank, is 680. So lenders are raising the criteria to get loans, even though loan rates are really at all-time lows.
And so is it? I guess it's a mix. It's easier to get a loan and it's harder to get a loan nowadays.
That's right.
Do you think that'll even out once things get reopened?
Yeah, I'm watching the bond market, and the 10-year Treasury is kind of the index to watch when you're looking at what our mortgage rate's doing. It's going to stay. I think it's going to stay low for some time. It's at I think it's at 61 basis points, so 0.61 is the index that people tie the mortgage rates to. I'm not saying mortgage rates are 0.61. Mortgage rates are around 3 to 3 1/3 today for a 30-year fixed, around 3 for a 15-year fixed, and so all-time lows. We have it. I think they'll stay low for a while. But I got to believe at some point, we're going to have to pay the fiddler in terms of all this massive influx of money that the Fed is putting into the market right now. At some point, we got to pay for that.
What do you think? What do you think the rebound is going to look like? I know the president is, and he tries to paint a rosy picture. The president tries to paint a hopeful picture. He thinks, or he says that once we get the states back working, that the economy is just going to take off. It's, James, just my perspective, it's hard for me to believe that, the restaurants are going to be crowded, all at one time, and the movie theater is going to be packed again. There's going to be a segment of the society that says, I'm going to take it a little bit slow, right?
Well, I think you're right for two reasons. One, they don't have a job, so they don't have money to go spend at the movie theater and the restaurant and places like that. So disposable income is going to be really impaired. Two, out of safety for getting the coronavirus for health reasons, so economic reasons and health reasons. So I agree with you. I don't see a V return we've had this massive drop. Now we're going to see this massive spike in spending and economic output. I think it's going to be sputtered. I don't think we're going to march out of this thing economically. I think we're going to crawl out of this thing. When 9/11 hit, it took the airline industry 5 years to recover from 9/11. And they were only out of business. They were grounded for about 10 days, maybe less than 10 days. Well, we've seen, I just told you the stats on air travel. So it's going to take the airline industry by themselves probably a decade to recover. I don't know. So I think it's going to be a slow recovery. But I think once we get either a vaccine or some kind of cure to coronavirus and people can be comfortable again, and then I think you'll see the economy rebound pretty remarkably. When you have economic stimulus, fiscal stimulus in terms of policy making and relaxing rules on things economically, and an influx of money into the system at the same time, traditionally that's like gas and dynamite put together. And all we need is a spark, and that thing's going to go crazy. So, I'm optimistic for the long-term future, but I think it's going to be some pain getting there.
Visiting with James Arnold, President and CEO of ABC Bank. Lubbock has been very lucky over the past, I don't know how many years. So, we've always talked about that bubble, that we've been, we never get too high, we never get too low. This is the thing that's going to do damage. It already has done damage to the Lubbock economy. And again, we have no idea if college football is going to happen or when it's going to happen. We think it's going to happen. We don't know if fans are going to be allowed in the stands. But I mean, is Lubbock's economic return? Is it going to be that sputtering return as well, you think?
I do. We all feel and recognize when tech is in session for the fall and spring and when they're out of session in the summer. We feel it in economically and traffic, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they've been gone essentially, since spring break. And so we're going to feel it from Texas Tech being out of session, the price of oil doing what it's doing. For every dollar the price of oil drops, it affects the state of Texas budget $85 million a year annually. On an annual basis, a dollar in price of oil drop affects the state of Texas budget $85 million. So just take it from 50 to 30. That's a big number that's going to impact Texas Tech. It's going to impact school districts. That's going to impact. It just ripples through the entire state in terms of what the state of Texas provides in terms of dollars. So yeah, Lubbock's going to feel it, and there's going to be businesses that don't come back when they can open the doors. They're just not going to be able to sustain this period of economic uncertainty and recessionary stuff.
Before I let you go, what are you hearing from cotton producers who are out there? Who I know y'all do a lot of business with some of our ag producers in West Texas.
Yeah, they're nervous. There's a lot of uncertainty. They're, most if not all of our cotton farmers have renewed their loans and their lines of credit with us, and they're getting ready to plant, probably in the next 14 to 21 days, a lot of uncertainty, but, the life of a cotton farmer is full of uncertainty. Yeah. So it's almost, obviously they've never seen anything like coronavirus, but they live in uncertainty when you depend on the weather and rain and all that. So, from what I'm seeing, they're going back to work, and they're going to start planting for the next crop season.
If you are if you're a business out there, a small business, and you didn't get through on that first loan, how do they need to get in touch with you guys, James, over at ABC Bank?
Well, they can call our main number at 775-5000. I'd tell them they better hurry. The president's supposed to sign the bill mid-afternoon. I anticipate the SBA turning on the portal for us to enter those loans either tomorrow or Monday morning. So, and again, like I said earlier, the money's going to dry up faster this time than it did the first time. So, people are desperate. A lot of people got cut out. A lot of small businesses got cut out, is what we saw in the news, and they're back in line.
All right, James, always a pleasure to visit with you. Appreciate all the information, and we'll let y'all get back to work and helping our small businesses out here in West Texas.
Chad, I hope you have a good weekend. Hope you guys are safe.
Thank you. You as well.
All right, bye-bye.
That's James Arnold, President and CEO of ABC Bank. Over 600 loans totaling more than $101 million approved and funded by American Bank of Commerce here in Lubbock. Good job.